In today's video, I'll show you how great things are looking in my yard and garden this year. We'll take a close look at how much some of my trees have grown. I'll show you what's blooming at this time of the year, what seeds I've planted, take a look at the amount of fruit on my fruit trees, as well as what kind of vegetables I'm growing this year. I'll show you a few new things I've planted in the yard, and I'll fill you in on the $50,000 renovation project that will happen here this summer. Let's start this off out here in my front yard. All I'm trying to do out here is to make it look good from the street, so that when my neighbors drive by, they're thinking, that place looks really great. The trick I use to keep that lawn nice and green is to use a lawn fertilizer that has iron in it. Iron is what gives a lawn that nice shade of green. This is creeping phlox, and that adds a nice splash of color out here. The hedge behind the phlox is not your typical hedge. Most people around here use boxwood to make a hedge. I had a bunch of Amur maple seedlings laying around, so I decided to just do an experiment and see if I could make a hedge out of them, and it worked really well. And a side benefit of having this hedge here is that when a package gets dropped off on my doorstep, the hedge makes it so that the package is not visible from the street. This side of this fence faces north, so it's in the shade almost all day long, and that makes it the perfect place for rhododendron. I've also got a bunch of hydrangeas here that are very happy to be in the shade all day long. Right now in May, they're not quite ready to bloom yet, but they'll bloom all summer long and well into the fall. The developer that built all these houses used this gray rock out along the street. Gray is not my favorite landscaping color, so I planted creeping sedum among the rocks here in my front yard to add a little color. I think that looks a lot better than just gray rocks. In the summer, the sedum gets bright red flowers, too. To cover up the gray rocks between my driveway and the property line, I've used creeping juniper, and it has really taken off in the last year. This is burning bush between me and my next-door neighbor. Burning bush turns to a spectacular red color in the fall, as do these 3 red point maple trees that I've planted in the lawn. Here's a photo of them from last October in full fall red mode. Next to the front patio and our front door, I've got a Japanese maple, which I'll keep pruned to about this size for the rest of its life. This ficus tree was in our living room inside the house all winter long, but for the summer, we've got it out here on our front patio. It loves being in the shade of our patio all summer long. And there's been a very cool new development. About a week or two after we brought the ficus tree out here, a female robin started building a nest in it, and now she has laid 3 eggs, and pretty soon we'll have a brood of baby robins. I've got a GoPro mounted in the ficus so that I'll be able to watch the babies grow up. Now we've moved out to my raised bed garden, and I really love that this puts everything I grow here up at a comfortable level for me to reach. I've been having all sorts of back issues over the last few years. It looks like I'm going to need back surgery this summer, so having this garden raised up like this is great for me. Something new this year is a trellis at the entrance to this area. I've planted honeysuckle at the base of the trellis, and it's growing really fast. I'll probably do another garden video this fall. I bet you won't even see the metal structure of the trellis anymore by then. And I bet that from now on, when I make these garden videos, a drone shot involving flying the drone through the trellis is pretty much going to be mandatory. What I planted in my raised bed garden last year was a total success, so I'm just doing pretty much the exact same thing this year. I'm recording this in May, so there's nothing to harvest out here yet, but I've got lots of flowers on my strawberry plants, and if you look carefully, I've already got some strawberries. Not quite ripe yet, but they're coming along. So that's going to be the first thing I'll be able to harvest this summer. It has only been a few weeks since our last frost, so my tomato plants are just getting started, but they too have flowers on them already. I've also got Walla Wall sweet onions planted. And this entire raised bed here, I know it doesn't look like much right now, but these are zinnias coming up from seeds I've planted. I love growing zinnias because they give me lots of flowers, which I can cut and then put into a vase. And all summer long, we'll have fresh cut flowers on our dining room table. I built these raised bed gardens by myself, and to keep the cost as low as possible, I just used these cheap cinder blocks from Lowe's to form the structure. And I really love that cinder blocks have these empty spaces, which I've filled with dirt. And the first year, I bought some pansies and planted them inside the cinder blocks. And I really like how that adds a splash of color, especially early in the season before things in the garden have started to grow much. But what I've learned about pansies is that they drop a ton of seeds, so now I've got pansies popping up everywhere from last year's seed. If my irrigation system splashes a little extra water there are pansies popping up there. This part of the yard is also where I planted apple trees, including my favorite, a cosmic crisp apple tree. If we take a close look, you'll see I'm well on my way to having a great apple harvest again this fall. In between the apple trees, I planted lilac bushes, which maybe wasn't the best place I could have put them, but they sure did look beautiful about a month ago when they were in bloom. In the shady area, under the apple trees and lilacs, I've planted coleus that I've grown from cuttings off of last year's coleus. The cuttings spent the winter inside our house and only just recently got moved out here for the rest of the summer. Doesn't look like much right now, but it will fill out and be beautiful here in the shade as spring gives way to summer. My wife's favorite fruit is peaches, and it looks like we're well on our way to having a great peach harvest again this year. Here's a shot of my backyard from my drone. The centerpiece of the backyard is that big lawn, over 7,000 square feet, and running right down the middle of the lawn are 4 redpoint maple trees. They're getting a little bigger each year, providing a little more shade each summer for our Cocker Spaniel, Carly. A great place for her to cool down after playing some of her favorite backyard games. The best thing about these redpoint maples is how they look in the fall. The leaves turn a beautiful red color, as you can see in this video I shot last October. We bought this property back in 2019, and it was just an empty dirt lot back then. This used to be farmland before the demand for new housing became just too much. In fact, when we bought the lot, there were still turnips growing on it. I loved starting with a blank slate and being able to design the backyard of my dreams. One of the best decisions I made was to surround the lawn with this cement path I'm standing on. Not only has it been great for running model trains, but also I really like having a path around the lawn rather than having to walk across the lawn to get over to things here on the other side. It was important to me that when we looked out from inside our house, or if we were sitting out on our patio, or soaking in the hot tub, that we wouldn't see the neighbors' houses and that they wouldn't see us. So one of the first things I did when we moved in was to start planting trees. My original idea was to have a row of spruce trees along the wall and a row of Amur maple trees in front of them. The Amur maple trees were a great choice. They've grown very fast and have done a great job of providing privacy. And in the fall, they put on an incredible show of color. The spruce trees were a bad idea, though, because that's a very slow-growing tree, and they didn't tolerate our summer temperatures well. So I ended up pulling out the spruces and putting green giants in instead. That has worked out much better, and they're growing really fast. Last June, I measured the height of this green giant at 13 feet, and now, 11 months later, remeasuring the same tree, looks like it grew about 2 feet taller in 11 months and got a lot fuller, too. I like the way things look in this part of the yard with the Amur maples up front and the row of green giants behind. You can't even see the block wall fence behind them, and you don't see much of the neighbor's house. But over in this area, where the neighbor has a big shop right at the property line, I'm still seeing way more of that shop than I want to. It's going to take more than a few years for everything to grow tall enough to soften the view of that shop enough to suit me. I did do something this spring that will eventually help, but this is going to take a really long time to pay off. I found some reasonably priced young green giants at Lowe's this spring. So I planted them in between and a little behind my existing green giants. But it's going to be a lot of years before these grow tall enough to make a difference. In front of the Amur maple trees next to the cement path, I did a little experiment by planting 2 different types of phlox. This is creeping phlox, the same type I have in the front yard. And this is a different type of phlox called garden phlox. And what I've learned is that creeping phlox blooms in the spring, and then the blooms kind of fade away in the summer. And the garden phlox doesn't even start to bloom until June, and blooms all the way through until fall. You can't help but notice all these young trees in plastic pots. You might be thinking, those are trees I've bought but haven't planted yet. Nope, I don't think I have room for any more trees in this yard. These are trees that I've grown from the seeds of the various maple trees in my yard. Maple trees drop a lot of seeds, and for the last couple of years, I've been letting some of those seeds grow, and I've been fertilizing them and using stakes to protect them from the wind and pruning them to shape them properly. And now I think they're just about ready to go to new homes. So in a week or two, I'll list them on Facebook Marketplace and have people from all over my area come over and take them to their yards. It's been fun to turn seeds into trees, but I don't think I'm going to do it anymore after I sell these off. I don't mind doing all the work involved, but looking at all these plastic pots is starting to irritate me. I think the yard is going to look a lot cleaner and nicer without all these potted trees. Well, I've saved the big news for last. We've got a big construction project scheduled for this summer. Over $50,000 worth of a construction project, in fact. I'm out on our covered back patio right now, one of our favorite places to hang out and to enjoy the views. We have several different seating options out here to choose from. This table and chairs, where during the summer we sometimes eat breakfast or lunch. We also just recently bought these 2 wicker chairs, which are nice and comfy and a great place to sit and have a drink and a chat. We also have this great little swing, which is an especially nice place to sit in the summer, early in the morning when the sun is low in the sky. It shines right in here and warms this place up. It's just delightful. It's really nice out here at certain times on certain days, but not all the time. Sometimes it's just too windy to be out here. When we have a windy day, the direction of the wind is almost always blowing right into our patio. The other problem is cold mornings. We're morning people. We love sitting out here on a warm summer morning while my wife drinks a cup of tea. And we would love to do that all year long, but for most of the year, it's just too cold out here in the mornings. Well, one windy day last year, my wife got this incredibly great idea. Wouldn't it be great if this patio was enclosed in glass to block the wind but still let the sun shine in? If this patio was surrounded by glass, as soon as the sun came up in the morning, it would shine right in here and warm this space up. We've already got these posts that support the roof over the patio. It wouldn't be hard to have glass installed between the posts to fully enclose the patio. But instead of just using solid glass windows, my wife imagined having big sliding glass doors here so that if it gets too hot in here from all that sun coming in, we could just slide the doors open to let all that excess heat flow out. And the second part of her big idea was that if this was going to become a sunroom, wouldn't it be great if instead of this little door being the only way to get to the sunroom from inside the house, what if we had this big window removed from the wall between the patio and our living room and had it replaced with French doors that would open up our living room to the new sunroom? And because all the sliding glass doors in the sunroom would be lockable, we could just leave the new French doors open most of the time, allowing the new sunroom to really be a new room inside the house, not a dirty outdoor space. We talked about this idea all winter long, fantasizing about how if this patio was a sunroom, it would be usable for so many more months of the year than it is now. Plus, over the winter and early spring, it wouldn't just be a sunroom. It could be a greenhouse. I could plant seeds months sooner than I can now, raise them in the sunroom for a couple of months, and then transplant them to the garden in May after our last frost, and I'd be way ahead of all the neighbors. The more we talked about it, this sunroom fantasy that my wife came up with went from being, wouldn't this be cool to do, to being, I can't imagine going another year without it. So we found the right people to do the work for us. We've signed the paperwork, put money down to seal the deal, and this July, you'll probably be seeing a sunroom tour video here on my YouTube channel. We moved in here to our Washington house on September 1st of 2020. We've had 4 summers here so far. This summer will be our 5th. I think it might just be our best summer yet. I'm Jim Zim. For my wife Kellen and our Cocker Spaniel Carly, I want to say thanks for watching. And if you're in the mood to watch another video, there are a lot more here on my YouTube channel. From model train videos to videos about vacationing on cruise ships, videos about our house, our yard and garden, and even a few videos about Carly. I'll leave you with this aerial view of our neighborhood here in Southeastern Washington, perfectly located close enough to the Columbia River to provide this gardener with a basically unlimited supply of irrigation water. If you like to grow things, that's a great thing to have.